What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Luke. It is the Keep It Real podcast, and I'm back with another podcast, number 50, with the low carb runner, the guy Mike McKnight, and very happy and excited to start this podcast. So thank you very much for joining me. And what is going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Just got back from a run, so everything's good right
Awesome. I
now.
see you're training for the Cocodona 250. Is that what?
Yep, Coca.
When is that?
That's May 2nd, so about 3 weeks.
And is that 250? Is that 250 miles one go?
Yep,
Wow.
250 miles from Phoenix area to Flagstaff. That is
Wow.
roughly the course.
How much elevation gain is that?
It's in the high 30s, I think. I can't remember.
How long is something like that going to take you?
I don't know really. The winter last year, it was the first. Last year was its first year, and the winter last year did it in like 70 hours or so.
Do you sleep at
So,
all?
um, personally, I take like a 5 minute nap on the second night,
Wow.
and then just pop a bunch of caffeine and go from there.
And when you take a nap, do you have somebody with you when you nap? Or you at like an aid station at that point?
I typically go and I just go until like I'm falling asleep and I can't stay on the trail.
Oh
And
wow.
then I'll lay down on the trail and take like a quick 5 minute nap or whatever.
And you said
Doesn't take
that's
long.
almost like 48 hours into the run, right?
Um,
About your second night.
second night,
Is that
second
36
night would be
hours?
more like 36. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And like, I mean, I hear stuff. I've never done an ultra marathon. I'm looking to probably try to work into like some tough mutters, some half marathons, and then get back into the swing and do some marathons and stuff like that. And then try a 50K would probably be my first go at an ultra
Right.
marathon, and then maybe like a 50 miler or something like that. So I definitely got my eyes on a couple different things, like the Spartan races and stuff like that. So I'm kind of excited for that. So we'll see in the summertime
Nice.
what comes. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm excited. So I mean, I guess first off, when did you start your whole running career? How old are you?
32.
Okay. Okay. So when did you start like running in high school or?
I ran a little in high school, but I wasn't good at it. So I took a break after high school, and I really got into running when I was 21. So just a little bit over 10 years ago.
Why'd you get into running at 21?
Just because I was bored, really.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I was going to college, and my sister was training for a half marathon, and then she kind of like challenged me to do it. So
Motivated you?
I signed up for the half with her and trained and kind of fell in love with it through that
Oh
process.
wow. Awesome. And I think you live in Utah. I see on Instagram.
Yeah. I
Where in
live in
Utah? Where's that by like Salt Lake City?
Yeah, I'm about an hour and a half south of Salt Lake.
Okay.
Basically, like if you look at the map of Utah, I'm like right on the top right corner tip of the borders.
Oh, so kind of by Colorado.
No, so we're surrounded by Wyoming and Idaho.
Oh, okay. Okay, so almost the west side, right west,
Yeah.
West Utah. Yeah, I actually drove across the country this summer, and I went to I guess I went South Utah mainly, but I went to Colorado and I went to Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon. I slept in my car and stuff like that. So
Nice.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So but
Yeah, that is a lot different than where I'm at. It's just a
yeah,
lot of green trees
yeah,
and
it's,
forest.
it's like yeah, it feels like you're in the middle of like the desert out there. It's pretty crazy. And have you ever done the Moab 250? I feel like seen you do that on Instagram
Yeah, I've done that one 3 times
three
now.
times. Wow.
Yeah.
And you're sponsored by like multiple companies.
Yeah. Yeah, like eight or so, eight to
Oh,
10.
wow. That's pretty awesome. When did that like journey start from like, you know, training with your sister for a half marathon and then like realizing you could go professional or even get some sponsorships? Like when did that process kind of take place?
Yeah, so I did my first ultra in 2013. And I would say I did maybe five a year, 5 ultras a year when I started. And my first like the like partnership was a small ambassadorship with they don't make shoes anymore, but Pearl Izumi
Okay.
back in the day made running shoes. So my first thing was like an ambassadorship with them where like I got a free pair of shoes and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And then I got another one with Honey Stinger, a nutrition company,
yeah.
maybe a year after that.
Okay.
But like I'd say my first like big sponsorship was with footwear. And then that was about 4 years ago with Ultra
Oh,
footwear.
do you still wear Ultra or
Nope, I'm a Solomon now.
Salomon only? Do you like Salomon better for this for the foot for your foot
Yeah.
preference?
I mean, there I do occasionally miss like the toe box that an Ultra has.
Hmm.
More specifically, like at the later part of a race when my feet start to swell a little bit. But aside from that, like I like all the qualities of Solomon better. I love the durability of them. I kind of actually like a shoe with some drop in it.
Okay.
Um, and they're lightweight and fast too, which is
How
hard to beat.
long how long does like an average shoe last you? Because I know you're putting hundreds of miles in a week.
Well, so like I have so many different models, I end up rotating through them.
Okay.
And so usually like I go through like a big influx like once every couple of years. So it's like, okay, I got to get rid of all these and then move to the next ones.
Do you change your sneakers like daily when you run? Because
Almost, yeah.
do you find any difference per se in like maybe injuries or anything like that? Maybe changing like your sneakers daily instead of
I
like
think it's
sticking
good.
with the same sneaker maybe for like 2 weeks at a time or something like that.
I just think it's good because like it's like every training run you're going to be feeling different.
A little different.
And so like there's some days where I'm just like feeling super fast and like I'm gonna float on the trail. So I'll go grab a really lightweight, minimal
Okay.
pair of shoes. And then like the days when I might be more tired or sloppy and not trust my foot placement, I'll get a thicker pair of shoes.
Okay.
Like so I
Yeah,
just think it's just nice because you can adapt to how you're
for
feeling.
sure. Have you ever used like a Vivo Barefoot or like one of those really minimalist shoes?
No.
Have you tried them?
No, I haven't. They look
Yeah.
funky. Have you?
Yeah. I have tried them. I kind of fell into the I don't know how much better they are. I've went from using regular like Brooks, Salomons, Nikes, and then I have some Vivo Barefoot. But I think I'm gonna switch back. I have a pair of Ultras now, and I'm probably gonna get another pair of like Hokas or something like that. Yeah, I think I'm kind of done with the barefoot wave. I was doing it for a few months, but my feet are hurting. It's kind of weird. I think it's good for like maybe exercising, get a little bit more range of motion, but other than that, like it's kind of painful on my feet. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I'd rather some sneakers. I wanted to ask you about like your I guess your recovery process from your back injury. That's pretty like intense and wild. Like what was that like? I can only somewhat give an instance. Like when I was 9, I broke my leg and had surgery twice on it. I was in a wheelchair, so I guess like that's kind of a bad injury. So not everybody has a
Yeah,
serious injury. So what was that process like? I get you were skiing and it was a ski injury.
yeah,
Like
yes.
what
So
happened?
what happened?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just in the terrain park and there was a girl that me and some friends met up there that we were showing off for.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I just I just got a little more confident than I should have on one of the jumps and ended up landing on my back and then shattering my L1 vertebrae. Um yeah, it was super painful. I had surgery. I still have some screws and rods in my back right now. But the recovery process was actually pretty quick, honestly.
Oh wow.
It was supposed to be a long one because of the vertebrae that was shattered and then also just all the hardware they put in. Like they project it would be a while for me to recover from that. But through just like a miracle, I started running 3.5 weeks after my surgery.
Wow.
Um, just like I picked like a half mile and started running and tried to see how I felt.
Yeah.
And since it didn't get any worse, I just kind of like slowly progressed. But I had to drop out of college because the doctor said it would be a year. So all my teachers just recommended deferring my classes for a year.
Yeah.
So like 2.5 to 3 months after surgery, like I didn't have a job, I didn't have school. So I was running like maybe 6 to 10 miles a day just about 3 months post surgery, just because I really
Wow.
had nothing else to do.
Wow. When did you break your back? What?
2012.
Okay, so quite a while ago. And that was that
Yeah.
kind of like the turning process of like taking running a little bit more serious and trying to take the I
Yeah.
guess the career of running. Wow, that's so
Yeah. I
interesting.
mean, yeah, I was, like I said, I was starting to enjoy it just before. I was gonna try to train and walk onto the track team at the college I was at.
Okay.
So like I was pretty motivated to get good at it. And since I just had nothing to do after breaking my back, I was able just to discover a love for running longer distance and didn't end up trying to get on the track team, but started doing ultra running.
Wow. And I mean, your Instagram is where I originally found you, the low carb runner. So, like, when did you go through the process, I guess, of transferring to low carb? Are you like keto? Or are you carnivore? Or what's kind of going on there?
Yeah, so it was when I picked the low carb runner, I just did it because it felt good. Um, but I didn't realize how perfect that name is for what I do
Yeah.
because it's not strict keto. It's like a lot of people think I'm just strict keto all the time. It's not fasting all the time. Like I know a lot of people know that I'm into fasting.
Okay.
So like it could have been like I have people that run into me in public and they're like, oh hey, you're the no carb runner, or hey, you're the keto runner. And it's
Yeah.
like I didn't pick those names for a reason.
Yeah. No.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so for like the standard American, like my carb intake is very low.
Okay.
Um, but for like definitions of keto, it's not strict keto 100% of the time. And so what I do is I'm trying to train my body to be efficient at burning fat and burning glucose. Whereas if you're a high carb athlete, you're typically a better glucose burner. If you're like a keto athlete, then you're going to be a much better fat burner. The area that I'm in, I'm just trying to be good at both. So burn fat for fuel is like a baseline. And then when I take in some sugar during a race, which might not be as often as the typical runner, but I'll still intake it. So whenever I do take that sugar, like, I get a quick boost of energy from the glucose burn. And then because I'm also good at fat, I can just go right into my consistent baseline and never like bonk or hit the wall or anything like that.
So when
So
did
also so al- so
go
like
on?
the term that I say is I'm low carb, but I'm also strategic keto. That's typically the way that I'll explain it to people.
I see. And when you intake carbs, are you staying away from starches? Like, what would you consider your carbs? Or is it more fruit based or?
Yeah, it's a lot more fruit based, but I do on higher volume days try to get a starchy vegetable in. So it's usually like fruits number one for sure, and then vegetables, and then occasionally potatoes.
I was gonna say like
Um,
sweet potatoes or something like that.
Sweet potato and red potato are the two
Red
I'll do.
potato. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what vegetables is your go-to for a carbohydrate?
So like if it depends on like the carb intake. Like if I'm trying to be more strict keto, then I stick to like green vegetables like green beans, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. When I'm not so much worried about keto, I'm just trying to do low carb, then I'll really do any vegetable outside of corn. So I'll do
Outside of corn.
carrots. Yeah, outside of corn.
Okay. And then I guess like the meat. Are you specific with types of meat? Do you eat pork? Do you eat chicken? What's that process?
Yeah, I eat all meat.
Okay.
The main meat I eat is definitely beef.
Okay.
Um, when I'm doing higher carb days, when I say higher carb, it's typically like 120 to 150 grams.
Okay.
Typical Americans get in easily over 300. So,
Okay.
um, but yeah, so I'll do whenever I do like a higher carb day, like 150 grams of carbs, that's when I'll have like a red potato. That's when I'll have a sweet potato. That's when I might have a vegetable that's like a little bit sweeter, like carrots.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And this is so interesting. When did you like find that this like started working for you? I guess. When did you start transitioning to more? Did you just try like a full-on ketogenic diet and then like add some carbohydrates to it and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the first like many races that I did, I was either puking at the race or I was losing energy. And that was because I was either eating too much and my body just couldn't digest it, or I was eating too little to avoid stomach issues, but I didn't get any energy because I
Yeah.
wasn't eating enough. So, one of my old jobs, I was in marketing at Ultra. I was an athlete for them and I was also in marketing for them.
Okay.
And one of our athletes, or not our athletes, but at the time, one of the athletes that I got to know who ran for Ultra was Jeff Browning. And I'm not sure if you've seen his name before or
I don't know.
not.
Possibly.
So he's coming up on 51 years old,
Oh,
and
wow.
he's still setting records and winning races
Wow.
and like, and if you meet him and see him in person, like I remember when I met him, he was like 45 or something because it was a few years ago that I met him. But he like before I learned that he was 45, I thought he was like 33 or 34.
Yeah.
Like tone, he doesn't look a thing over, like
Yeah.
there's no way he's in his 40s kind of a thing.
Wow.
50s yet alone. But yeah, I met Jeff and he does this approach, the low carb approach. And so I can't, I just met him and we were talking and I was trying to get advice from him because of all the stomach issues that I was having. And he basically told me, the philosophy of a low carb approach that you can teach your body to be efficient at fat and you don't have to intake as much food because you are efficient at burning fat. And then you don't lose energy because you have such a huge fuel source to burn. So like he basically showed it to me as if it was something that was gonna, if I do it right, that was gonna fix the issues that I was having. So I started like the very first thing that you do when you do this approach is you do a strict keto diet phase for like 4 months, maybe 2 to 4 months, depending on how fast you adapt.
Okay.
So I started doing a strict keto diet for a few months to get used to it. And then just, progressively since just started implementing carbs into my daily diet again, but try to time it around my workouts. So, if I get 120 grams of carbs a day, I try to get that within 3 hours of my workout so that I'm just replenishing the glucose that I used versus storing it. So just trying to time it a little bit and utilize those carbs more for, what they're meant for.
For sure. When you eat, are you eating before 3 hours before a run or 3 hours after a run?
So it depends on the run, but so when I say like 3 hours within my run, that can be in any direction.
Okay.
So if I'm doing like a afternoon run, I might have like if it's going to be a speed workout or a really long workout, I might throw in some red potatoes in the air fryer and eat some potatoes before I go for the run.
Okay.
If it's a shorter run, I might eat an apple before I like eat just before I go out the door and then utilize that.
Okay.
So in either direction, 3 hours is when I try to get my carbs.
And do you eat when you run predominantly, like, especially I guess when you're training? Are you eating while you're training?
Usually Monday through Friday, I'm not. So Monday through Friday, I'm running anywhere from an hour to 2 hours and 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
And then Saturday is like my long run, which could be anywhere from 3 to 6 hours.
Okay.
And so during the week, I don't eat just because, I've kind of gotten to the point where running 2 hours without eating is not an issue. And even running 4 or 5 hours for me without eating isn't an issue, but I do choose to use my long run as a time to intake nutrition just so I don't get so far on the other side that all of a sudden like any kind of nutrition is going to upset my stomach because I
Yeah.
don't practice eating. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of like what other I guess what other foods are you getting besides meat and vegetables? Are you going with cheese and dairy? Are you having like avocado? How often you having avocados? I know that's a huge, fat intake. That's the
Yeah.
go-to, right?
Uh,
Avocados.
so, so just in my daily diet, what am I doing to get
Yeah,
fats?
yeah. And could I ask as well, do you eat sourdough bread? I know that's kind of like a trend.
I don't eat sourdough bread.
Okay.
Um, I assume there's gluten in it.
I think the sourdough, like the whole thing with it is like the way it cooks is it like eats the gluten itself, so it's technically gluten free. I think like that's the
Oh,
whole.
okay, cool.
Yeah, I think there's like a trend with sourdough.
Well, no, I don't eat it just because I really don't care for bread to begin with.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Um, but yeah, a typical day, like a lot of the fats I get from red meat. A lot of times when I do have some carbs after a run, I will still pair it with fat and protein. So, a lot of times when I dice up some red potatoes and I'll throw in the air fryer.
Yeah.
And then like the final 3 or 4 minutes before those potatoes are done, I'll crack 4 eggs over them and then finish it off and turn it into like an over easy potato scramble type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So, I'll get my eggs, my red meat. Um, Eggs and red meat are a big part of my diet,
I
honestly.
guess. I guess on an average day, do you have fish as well?
Fish?
Yeah, fish. Are you a fish guy?
Yeah, I'm not against it. I just would rather eat red meat.
Fair
Just
enough.
I like it better.
On a regular training day, how many calories are you eating?
I would say I am eating maybe 3 to 3,500.
Okay, so that's not that bad. That's not like too much.
No, just because it's going back to the training your body to burn fat thing. Like, I eat until I'm satiated, and that's about what I'm at for each
Yeah.
day.
Okay. And do you do any like what's your forms of like recovery? Are you going into a sauna, ice bath? Do you have like the hyper rice leg compression things?
Yeah, I got compression boots. And I just work from home, so a lot of days I'll throw on the compression boots for 2 hours and do emails at the couch, kind of a thing.
Okay.
So compression boots, when I do like a really big workout where I know I'm going to be tired or sore from it, I will cover my legs with CBD,
Okay.
and then I'll put on like my running tights and then go do the boots. And so it's
Okay.
just kind of like pushing that cream into the skin.
Yeah.
I consider my low carb approach part of my recovery,
Yeah.
just because it's a diet, the diet's focused on eating loads of low inflammatory causing foods.
Anti. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like my diet helps me recover better.
And
Um,
what's
and
your like supplement intake? Are you taking like greens? What's that like?
so I'll usually like 95% of the time, some of the carbs I get after my run is I'll do like a protein strawberry smoothie.
Okay.
So I do have protein powder. I do take BCAAs after every run. I
Okay.
take electrolytes all throughout the day. And then I'm also doing collagen and liver and vitamin D.
Okay. MCT oil is that that's like a big trend with is that right? Is that
Yeah,
like
I don't do so MCT and coconut oil are one of the same.
okay.
So I will at times like eat a spoonful of coconut oil. Like a lot of times, one of the things I eat before my run, it's like this weird scoop of there's this weird thing I mix, but I'll like get a scoop of coconut oil, a scoop of almond butter, and then top that up with a little bit of honey,
Okay.
and then I'll just like kind of eat this big spoonful of this before I go for my
Okay.
runs. Like,
Fair enough.
but yeah, so I guess a little bit of MCT oil every day, but through coconut oil.
Do you have I'm kind of forgetting the name. Spirulina. You ever heard
I'm not
spirulina?
sure what that is.
I think it's like a strong green extract. I think it's big for like endurance. My friend was just showing me about it, so it's kind of interesting. I was looking all into it. But yeah, that's very interesting. And I guess are you running? Are you running for these companies at these races? Like, are they putting you out there, or is it all on your own expense?
No, I have like my contract with Solomon. I get a little bit of support in that form. Um, so yeah, I get support in that form. So I'm
Awesome.
definitely first and foremost running for myself, but yeah, I run for these companies too.
Oh, and you're a coach as well, online coach, or
Yeah. So I used to work for a nonprofit, and just recently, like 2 weeks or so ago, like I'm still gonna be a volunteer for the nonprofit, but I'm no longer working for them. But and then I'm now focusing on full-time coaching. So
Oh wow,
running and coaching are mostly what I do now.
that's awesome. That is awesome. I saw. Are you do you follow like people like Zach Bitter, like some of his content and some of the things that he does?
Yeah, yeah. Me and Zach are friends, so
Oh wow,
we
that's
we
awesome.
talk a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I get a lot of information from him. So I know that how fast are you training? Like, what's your pace when you're training? Do you follow like heart rate? Are you going more like heart rate, or what's that
Yeah,
aspect
I
like?
follow heart rate.
Do you try to do
I
the one?
follow heart rate. What's that?
Do you try to do the I guess the 180 minus your age or yeah?
Yeah, 180 minus your age, and then plus 5 if you've been running injury free for like 2 years.
Okay,
So that's your aerobic ceiling, as
okay,
close as to what you can figure it to be without getting tested. And so most of my runs are at that number or below. I'll do like speed workouts in some of my runs where I'll do short 30 to 90-second fartleks a few times. But my overall heart rate's always below my aerobic ceiling when I'm training.
and are you worried about I guess your foot placement and your cadence, or do you not try to focus on that as much?
Um, I mean, yeah, because if you're doing all that, if you're doing all that wrong, you're gonna get injured.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like a lot of times, like, but I mean, at this point, I've done it for so much that it just
Yeah,
becomes
I was
kind
gonna
of a
say.
habit.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I figured. Oh, that's really interesting. Um, um, what's like the plan for this year, and maybe next year? Are you doing any like the Western? Have you ever done the Western States 100 or anything like that?
I did the Western States 100 a few years ago.
Oh wow.
Um, so yeah, it's a fun race, but it's so hard to get into. So I imagine it will be a while before I get back into that one.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Are you competing? Like, are you trying to place at some of these races? I saw you won a
yeah, I
55K.
mean,
The other,
yeah, about a month ago.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I used to not race to place. Like I used to just race just to better myself, and that's
Yeah.
still like the main thing I'm trying to do. But just along the way, like I won a race and it kind of caught me out of the blue that I was able to win it. And so after that, I started to like get a lot more confident. And so it's transitioned to the place now where the races that I sign up for to place.
Awesome, awesome. And when you're training, are you training as how often are you training at the same pace that you plan on racing at?
Not often.
Okay. Close. Are you
Well,
mainly doing? All right.
I
You go.
say maybe. I mean, I guess you do make me realize that, like, because I keep my heart rate aerobic, like, at the end of the day, the pace that I'm training at is typically the pace that I do end up trying to get at these races. Um, so yeah, I mean, I guess I never realized that, but especially with like if you're doing a 50K, um, and you like if you're pretty seasoned with ultra running, you can go do a 50K, and if you're confident enough, you can like go out and maintain a strong pace, like, and keep your heart rate at your ceiling or higher. So 50K ultra marathoners like can get away with that, but if you're doing 100 miles to 200 miles, like you want to keep that heart rate aerobic the entire time, because like going above that's not going to benefit you for that long of a race. So
Yeah.
so since I do 200 milers typically, my heart rate after my training runs are pretty spot on for what I'm trying to do in a race.
And are you? I guess in the morning, are you trying to look at your heart rate variability, like where you look at what your heart rate is in the morning? I guess compared to what it should be at a resting heart rate.
No, I don't do that.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, then. This is very awesome. Man. This is so awesome. Um, have you ever watched, I guess, Billy Yang films?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really like I'm very interested in trying to make a like a documentary about like ultra running and that whole community. Eventually, I want to make a documentary of myself doing an ultra marathon, but
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely in the future, man. I'm
Yeah.
definitely we could definitely talk about maybe trying to work on a documentary on something that you're working on and try to share your story a little bit and have like a backstory, and that'd be pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, thanks, man. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's something you want to get into, I recommend just showing up to races and taking
Yes.
pictures and like starting out volunteering and giving the photos to the racers. And
Yeah.
that's typically how a lot of these photographers and filmers, like Billy Ying, I'm sure that's how he started.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Blogging or something like that. Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is. Let me see. Let me check my phone, see if I forgot any solid questions, because I texted myself a whole list. But let's see. Let's see. I guess. Do you think like the low carb diet? I know everybody's different, but do you think the low carb diet would probably help more athletes that maybe haven't tried it, or what's your opinion? I guess on that.
Yeah, that's a tricky question because I never try to say that the low carb diet will help everybody because you know we're all different and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there that wouldn't do well on a low carb approach. But I do think that there are a lot of benefits to it, and I do think that there are a lot of runners who um, are having issues that could be resolved by this approach. So because like anybody who does a low carb approach typically doesn't come over to do it without having some kind of issue.
Yeah.
um like the standard American diet, even though it has some flaws, like that's kind of the standard and that's what we're all used to, and if we're not having issues with that, we don't have a lot of reason to look elsewhere. So
Mhm.
I do think like a lot of runners who might be having digestive issues, like can't go a race without puking and getting to a point where just any kind of food makes them gag. And then the runners too who are, you know, starting out super strong and having a solid race and then just crashing and losing all energy. I do feel like there's people in those realms that would benefit from something like this for sure.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm not the biggest thing too, like nutritionists, the majority of the nutritionists that I know and that I follow hate a low carb approach, and they preach against it like it's the plague.
Yeah.
I do hope we get to a point where, like, as a society, and nutritionists too can get to a place where they can be okay saying that a low carb approach could be beneficial for this runner or this
For sure.
runner. That would be nice.
Yeah. No, that is very interesting. Ah, that is so interesting. Um, let's see. I think that might be all. I think that might be all. Is there anything you want to say to anybody listening?
No, man, no, we
Good.
covered a lot of good stuff.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate this, and hopefully, I'll see you sometime in the future and check you out at a race or something like that. I'm definitely got my eyes set on going to some things and doing some stuff like that, photography for a lot of different things and videography. So it's
Okay,
pretty. I'm
cool, man.
excited, and maybe talk to you about some coaching or something like that. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, just let me
So
know.
yeah, for sure, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For sure. All right, take it easy, man.
Yeah, we'll see you.
That is it. That is that boy Michael McKnight. I appreciate you so much for coming on the podcast. We basically just talked about running and diet, and that is his whole thing. So check him out. His link to his social medias will be in the description below. If you guys are new to my podcast, I'm Luke Vaughn. This is the Keeping It Real podcast. Subscribe, check out my other conversations. I appreciate you all for watching. Again, low carb runner, thanks for coming on the Keeping It Real podcast. I'm excited, and hopefully I'll see some people at some races sometime soon. And just keep working, keep grinding, and thank you so much. Deuces, everybody.